Yo YouTube, this is my video for Friday the 25th of July, and I am on my way to pick up a job, was two rabbits there. I'm on my way to pick up a job from Wellingborough going to Stockport, and it is a non-CX job. I want to spend a bit of time just talking about how I feel about this job, and hopefully it will make some sense. Before I talk about that, let me tell you what's happened since my last video last night. So I think my last video was a stats video, and I probably said I was going to get myself a McDonald's on the way home. And I had to kind of rush to get home because I had an early start this morning. And what happened was I got the McDonald's. I didn't feel particularly great afterwards. It felt like it was a bit too full and it was the wrong sort of food. So maybe I'll avoid that next time. But the point is, I got home at around about 10:45, and I got unpacked and got straight to bed, hooked up to my dialysis machine, and was in bed hooked up by, I think it was 11:05. I couldn't have done that any quicker. And my concern was, would I be able to get unhooked in time to get to my job this morning? I slept pretty well. I woke up about 4 o'clock initially, and then I sort of snoozed for a bit, and then I got myself out of bed at 6 o'clock. And by the time it had all filled up and I'd managed to unhook myself, it was 6:40, which is exactly the time I was hoping to be in my van and on the road to Wellingborough. So I knew I was going to be a little bit late. Anyway, by the time I got my shoes on and got myself into my van and was on the road, it was just before 5 to 7. And my ETA on my sat-nav was saying just before 8:15, and I was meant to be at the pickup at 8 o'clock. Now, I don't think it really matters. I don't think 15 minutes is going to matter here or there. It's just more the principle of the matter, that you don't want to know you're going to be late straight away. So I've let the shipper know, and I'm on my way, and depending on how the traffic situation goes, I'll be there between 10 past and 8:15. So time wise, I'm not going to now worry about that. I've did the best that I could, and I did the best that I could, and it's not going to be an issue for the shipper or the customer. Now, as I was driving to come and do this job, I felt really, really happy about this job, and more importantly, really grateful. I've sent James a message and he's responded, and I've just double checked he's okay for me to name check him on this, because I think it's important that I do that. And obviously, for most of my videos, if not all of them, I avoid mentioning any person's name when they're a company, because it's not really up to me to mention people's names on my channel. I don't really even mention very often what I'm taking, because I don't think that's particularly relevant. I might mention it's a pallet or a box, but I don't mention what the goods are. But I wanted to sort of really kind of try and express to you how grateful I am for this sort of work from Freddie Fletcher Limited. I'm 40 miles away from Wellingborough. It's about an hour and a quarter's drive, hour and 20 minutes drive. And it's picking up a long wheelbase van job going to Stockport. The loaded miles are 145 loaded miles, and I'm getting £200 for this job. And that, I think, is a really fair pay sort of job that I do and that we do as drivers. I wouldn't need a lot more than that personally, but I very rarely get that sort of level of pay, and it just makes today for me a genuine pleasure from start to finish. Obviously I haven't finished the day yet, it might get horribly wrong, but unless I crash or have a breakdown, my day is now set up to be a really good day. And that's all down, it literally is all down to how James runs his business. And I've experienced a lot of things about how people behave in my life, in and outside of same-day courier work, logistics. And it's really refreshing and really inspiring to know someone like James Fletcher. It's one of the things about social media that I think is really positive. You get to meet, inverted commas, people that you never otherwise meet. I get to experience through YouTube, a sense of community with these sort of people. So I really wanted to kind of express, I've done this to James directly this morning, and I wanted to express through my channel deep appreciation for this job in particular, the job I had yesterday, and just the way that James runs his business. If you are a driver doing the job for James, you really need to make sure you, in my view, do the best job you can. Anyway, so I don't. I'm waffling a bit. I appreciate, and I'm trying to be succinct, but it's just what I'm expressing more than anything else is my emotional well-being off the back of doing this job, and I think that's what's hard to explain to people. I can explain the facts and the figures, and if you do this job, you'll know what they mean instantly. But also, if you do this job, you'll know what I mean instantly by it's just a pleasure to do this job. And I suppose that's what I'm saying, is that I'm having a brilliant day so far, and it's really all down to James. So hip hip hooray times 3 for Free Fletcher Limited. So I'm going to end up in Stockport on a Friday before midday. I can't see me not getting another job heading back towards my home or somewhere useful today. It just seems highly unlikely that's going to happen. So I should have a good day. I'm going to be interested to know how this week looks. It's felt like a bit of a struggle, apart from today. I don't mind it being a struggle as long as I get rewards at the end of it. So I suppose I should say now what I'm hoping to get. I reckon if I've made £300 plus after business expenses and fuel this week, I think that would be a good week. Right, I'll let you know how it goes. Hello there, it is now 10 to 1. I dropped off my load for my first drop of the day at 11:40, which is an hour and 10 minutes ago. And since that point, I came down the road and got some fuel and went to the local supermarket and got some food. Then I parked up in this lay-by. And there was absolutely loads of jobs on the CX from my feed, most of them from my home area. There's about 65, 70 jobs when I stopped. So I went through them all, got rid of all the ones from my home area, looked at the stuff that was local to here, and I've put bids on about 4 or 5 things. Mainly, I think, I've taken the opportunity to bid on stuff going to the outskirts of London, because I think that would work for me in terms of distance. Now, I'll tell you the bids I put on. They're pretty much small van work. I've put on a bid that was 85p a mile, 80p a mile, 81p a mile. And I didn't get any of those jobs. And I was within 20 minutes of all of them. And I think that it's just not, that price at the moment, particularly at this point in the day, isn't going to win work. Which brings me to a slight, comment, I suppose, about those people that choose to be quite rude or aggressive in their comments, along the lines of the theme being you're charging too little. Not usually that polite, but kind of slagging off drivers for working on the CX for too little amount of money. Now, I don't, in principle, have a problem with that particular mindset or kind of sharing that kind of comment. What I don't think I've got any time for is the nature of the way they do it. It's like 2 or 3 words, quite abusive and quite condescending is the main thing. And it's not opening up a discussion. It's not any nuance to it. And I know that it happens a reasonable number of times. I don't get a lot of it, but I know that happens a reasonable number of times on the internet, on social media. And my view is I'm not going to engage with those people if they're going to do it rudely. But if they've got something constructive to say, if they want to engage in a way that is more of a discussion, I'm perfectly happy to engage. But these people, I suspect, are a bit out of date with what the CX is like nowadays. Because the economy is very low, pretty much in recession. There's not a lot of work. CX, as everyone knows, is the bottom of the barrel with the jobs. And so if you're going to use a bidding platform to bid for work, then you have to kind of go with what the price is. And I'm sort of losing a bit of patience with the idea that it's drivers' faults for bidding too low, or it's shippers' faults for accepting too low bids. There's an element where that's kind of true. If everyone worked together and didn't do that, the prices would be higher. But that's not the way that the world works. The world works much more, I think, in my view, on a supply and demand basis. So if there are more people supplying a service than there are demanding it, the prices is going to go down for whatever you're talking about. And for whatever reason, that situation we've been in for a long time with jobs on CX. So it's all very well getting on your high horses and being rude about drivers bidding too low, but as a backload site, which is what CX effectively is, if you don't bid the price that's going to be accepted, you won't get any work, you won't get home. And I've done so much of that in the past that it comes to a point where you've got to think, well, there's a principle which stands to some extent, but sometimes you've just got to go with practicality. And if I can make a living by going a bit cheaper but providing the same quality of service, then why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't anyone do that? It's not an answer to all the criticisms, of course, but it's not as simple. It's not black as white saying you must not go down below X amount per mile. It depends so much on where you are compared to the job, where you're trying to get to in the country, how busy is the way you're going to, where you're coming from. It depends so much on who's around you at the time. It depends so much on the time of the day of the week. So today's Friday. It's busy on the feed. I'll get something, I'm sure, but I've tried at 85p to 80p a mile. I would say to those people that criticise, at what point do you stop trying that and go lower? At what point, what would you do differently then? If you're trying to get a backload on the CX, what would you do differently to get to earn an income? Because I had nothing from them that's constructive. I just see comments that are basically trolling comments, which obviously I don't engage with trolls. And I think that I'm going to go lower now. I've been here for an hour. I'm going to go down to 75p a mile and 75 to 80p a mile and see if I get a job. And if I'm going to London, for example, then there's something going on behind me. Oh, yes. I'll see if I show you in the mirror. Right, there's a car with a green lady wanted to come into the lay-by. They beeped the van that's behind me, and then they've just got out of the car, parked there, effectively, stopped there in the middle of the road to tell the van, could you please move forward a little bit? And he has done that, and That's quite a reckless thing to do from that white cast point of view, in my opinion. But they're all happy now. Anyway, so yeah, I'll take criticism from people that I respect, and I'll take criticism from people that have a reasoned argument. But obviously, no self-respecting person, never mind self-respecting YouTuber, is going to take any notice of anyone who just slags them off without any sort of context, nuance, or manners. And I'm really, one last point is, one of the reasons why I wanted YouTube is I always felt I had a very thin skin, and I felt that if I could cope with YouTube, that would help me develop my personal resilience. And I do think it's worked. I think I feel a lot less affected by these comments than I used to. And I feel that I stand up for myself, and I can make my point, I can either ignore them or engage with these people. Right, before I go, a quick story from last night which I didn't tell you about. I'm going to scan across my windscreen up to the left. Hopefully you'll see clearly enough that there's a big crack. Right top there, that's where the stone hit. Last night, as I was driving back, I had one of those really heart-pounding moments when a stone got kicked up and hit the top of my windscreen. And if you've ever had experience, it's very loud, and it was quite shocking. And I looked around, and then I saw, oh, that's what the damage was caused. And I'll also show you, if you can see, right in front of me. I don't know if you can see. I'll have to use my finger to point to it. There's another chip just there. If I go pull back a bit, you can't really tell it's a chip from the screen, but that chip there is definitely makes my MOT null and void, as in it won't pass an MOT. It's within my eye line. And can you guess? I'm not going to make you do this. It's rhetorical. For rhetorical effect, can you guess when that happened? And that happened, drum roll, precisely 3 days after my last MOT. Now, I thought that was very lucky. If it had been 1 or 2 days before my MOT, I'd have to have got the windscreen changed at that point. But as it is, that was back in March. I'm going to change my windscreen on Tuesday under insurance because of that second massive crack, and I don't have to have kind of gone to the expense of and the effort of changing it before my MOT this year. So I feel that I've got a few months extra wear out of this windscreen, but now is the time to change it. So yeah, that's booked in for Tuesday sometime. Right, so I think that's everything. I'm going to keep looking for jobs. I'm going to go cheaper now, and I'm going to hopefully get some work. Cheers. Oh, look at this. I'm on the road. I'm moving. Woo. It either means I've given up and gone home, or I've got a job. What do you think has happened? I'll give you some time to think about it. The time is now 10 to 2. I have not got a CX job. However, I have got a non-CX job. Hey! Did you get fooled then? So this is not the same person I worked for this morning. This is a company in the Northwest. That when I'm in the Northwest, I tend to send them a message saying I'm available if you need me. And most of the time, nothing happens. But probably 1 time out of 10, there's something that I can do. And on this occasion, about half an hour ago, they rang me off the back of my sort of message and said, we might have some work for you. What would you charge to do a job going from a WA postcode going to Leeds, Sheffield and then Nottingham? And so this is all in text. So this is back saying I would do it for £1 a mile plus £10 per additional stop. So in this case, it would have been £20 extra. And I was actually at the time 40 minutes or 24 miles away from the pickup point. And so there's a lot of back and forth between them and the customer, and eventually they said, "Can you give us 5 minutes? We think it's going ahead. Just need confirmation from the customer." So this would have been over about 20 minutes. So I stopped bidding on CX and I waited, and I thought, well, I'll start driving towards the pickup points because I'm too hot sitting there in my van. I've got the windows open, I can get some fresh air in. And also the route was quite congested. So I was going from sort of east side of Manchester to the west side of Manchester, along the southern border, southern side, and it was quite busy with traffic today. So I started making a move, and then about 10 minutes in, they confirmed that I am getting the job. They said that the job itself is £170, 170, and then we played the typical dance where they say what they want to pay, and I think I don't want to pay that, I want to get more, and I think, well, this is a handy job for me, and they know it's a handy job for me, but also they know I'm a good driver, they need a good driver. So I came back to them and said I'd do it for 180, and we all knew that was going to be right, that was going to be okay. I had to play the game and get a bit more money than what they offered. I wasn't going to push it. I'm happy with 180. I just don't know yet how long the job's going to take. So I was prepared to do. I was bidding on jobs going to Dartford and London. So this has got to be better than that, and it's getting me about the same sort of money. And I'll be closer to home when I finish. So it's win-win for me, this job. But most importantly, it's 2 jobs today where I've not had to use the CX to win any work. And it's 2 jobs that mean that my total for today is going to be £380, which is probably the most I've made. This is gross, sorry. So net, it'll be about, I'm going to say about 310, 315 net, which is great. I mean, that is an amazing amount of money to earn, and I'm not going to be that far from home. I'm not going to be that late home, I don't think. So I'm really pleased with today. I'm about 22 minutes away from the pickup. There's still some more congestion at some point along this route, and then it will come through on CX at some point, hopefully before I get there. I've had a WhatsApp message confirming it's going ahead, but I've not yet had the CX come through with all the details. But it's definitely going to happen, and I'm happy with that. Right then, YouTube, update time. You know, don't you, that things, when they're looking too good to be true, they end up going wrong in some way. And this has gone wrong in a really awkward way. It's not gone really wrong that I can just give up on it and think, oh, forget it. And it's not gone a little bit wrong that, oh, it doesn't matter. It's gone just about enough wrong that it's going to be awkward and slightly annoying, but probably still has to go ahead. So I'd love to know what you would do in this situation, bearing in mind bearing in mind everything you know about my day and my higher money and where I live. So I've just had a call. I'm 5 minutes away from the pickup point. Just had a call. It's now 2:15, and the customer has said they're not going to be ready until 3:30 or 4 o'clock, which is effectively a 1.5 hour ish wait. So I could have just said, I'm not doing it, I'm not waiting that long. That'd be a perfectly acceptable thing to do. But I have no way of guaranteeing, in my mind, I've got no way of guaranteeing anything similar in terms of paid work to get me home. Or I could just say, yeah, I'll do it, I'll still do it. and ask for some more money. But I didn't feel I could justify that either, because what do you ask for? What do you ask for waiting before they're actually ready to do the thing? I've never come across this before, where I've actually been given a job effectively before I've arrived, and then been told it's not now, it's an hour and a half. So I didn't feel, I ummed and ahed about it a bit on the phone, and I just thought to myself, you cannot refuse to do this. So I reluctantly said I would do it. Basically, the bottom line is I've got an hour and a half now of just waiting around. That's the bad side. Second bad side, I'm going to be finishing an hour and a half later today, which isn't great, but it's not the end of the world. So I think, all things considered, I think I made the right choice to not throw my toys out the pram and just carry on doing it. But it is incredibly disappointing to go from the highs of my last message to this. This is now more of a, oh, okay, it's just a mundane wait until they're ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the pickup point. I'm going to say to them, I'm aware that you're not ready yet. I'm just going to wait here till you're ready. Please let me know when you're ready to go, and I'll go straight away. So I'm going to not put pressure on them. I'll be very polite about it. I'm just going to let them know that I am available whenever they finish. Because it might be that they finish early, or they can do my job first. There's another job they've got to do. It's go to London. So I'm going to just do that and hope that maybe it's just an hour's wait. So on reflection, I think I've done the right thing, but it doesn't feel emotionally pleasant. But this is a good example of how you need the right sort of character to do this job. If you're going to get all angry and upset when these things happen, you probably shouldn't be a same-day career driver. But I feel, as I've explained it to you, basically the worst thing is I've got to wait for a bit longer. I waited for an hour anyway before I got the job, so at least I know I've got a guaranteed job in place. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. But I'm glad that I had this chance, this forum, to express it to you guys, and that has helped me to sort of put a bit of context. Right, it is now 2:35, and it's a very much an up and down sort of day, because I arrived at the pickup point. I said to them, I'm here, I'm ready when you are, can you use your toilet? Which they let me do. I came out of the toilet, moved my van around, so I was facing the goods in door across the road, and then the guy walked out with the boxes. I'm now loaded up. It's crazy, it's crazy. If I'd gone by what I was told, I might not even come here. I might have been waiting till 4 o'clock, which is what the time says to arrive at on CX. But because I did come early, and because I happened to say I was there, they're ready for me. It's a good lesson, I think, that don't worry about going early and just saying you're there. As long as you don't expect to get loaded up, often, in my experience, it helps. So I'm now back up into my highs. I'm now on the way to my first delivery in Leeds. It's going to be a longish day. It's an hour and 70 odd miles to get to Leeds from here. About an hour and 50 minutes. Bit of traffic on the way. But I'm on my way. It's excellent. So this video is all over the place, isn't it? Right, I'll speak to you later, but probably with the stats, I suspect. Okay, last video of the day. I've just finished my 3 drop-offs. One was to Wakefield, one was to the Sheffield City Centre, and the last one was Nottingham City Centre. Because it's city centres at the end, it was quite tiring trying to navigate all the twisty roads, the traffic, the buses, the pedestrians, and the traffic lights and stuff. So I'm a bit tired having done all that. It's now just gone 8 o'clock, and I'll be back home in about an hour. So I've got some stats for you. Oh, so that job I've just done, I would do it again if I was given the opportunity. I'm not sure it's a regular job, but now that I know what's involved, I certainly would do it for a similar price again. Right, so my stats for today are as follows. I did fill up with fuel today, so I've got a new average fuel price of 14.10 pence per mile. My total miles driven today are 440. I will have worked a total of 14 and a quarter hours by the time I get home. I've earned from 2 non-CX jobs £380, 380, and in total I've spent £62 and 22 pence on fuel. So if I round that down to get my net earnings, I've made today £318, 318 net earnings after fuel. So I'm really pleased with that. Again, I've worked hard today and I've got a fair pay for it. It's been a long day, but it's still a nice day, lovely evening to drive in, and lovely countryside to drive through. So for my weekly summary, this is based over 4 working days. I've worked for a total of 49.5 hours. My total mileage this week was 1,547. My total gross earnings this week were £985, 985. I have spent £222, 222 on fuel, which means that my net earnings for the week comes to £763, 763. The average amount that I've earned for every mile that I've driven comes to 49.29 pence per mile. The average amount net earned every day for the 4 days is £191. So I'm pleased with that. That's not a bad average at all for me. And then finally, if I remove £315 from my total, I'm left with £448, which I would regard as being my income for the week. The £315 goes nominally to cover my business costs, other than fuel. So, that's good, isn't it? I'm pleased with that. Even just working one more day makes a big difference to my income, although I think that's skewed somewhat by the 3 non-CX jobs I did this week. But that really is the way that you can make a living, is having some direct work given to you at a fair price. I think I'm showing very clearly with my experiences that it's very difficult to make a living income only off the CX. So I'm back to work on Monday. Thank you very much for listening to this video. I hope that you are all being successful, however you choose to find that word for yourselves. Farewell, friends.